In 1606, a joint stock company called the Virginia Company was formed in England. They were going to travel to the New World to look for gold, similar to what the Spanish had done in the New World. In 1607, three ships with about 100 men on board settled about 40 miles up what's going to be known as the James River in modern-day Virginia. They created Fort James. Eventually, when the population grew, it turned into Jamestown. This was really a bad choice for where to settle. The water was brackish. The geography was very marshy, full of mosquitoes, which carried malaria. And the Native American population was not very happy with the people moving there. The expectation was that life would be easy and there'd be lots of gold, and there was very poor people that either had no experience farming or wealthy gentleman types that didn't know how to farm or didn't want to farm. The local Native American tribe that was in the area was known as the Powhatan Confederacy. It was a fairly large empire of Native Americans, about 14,000 scattered among villages of about 100 each. It was probably the most powerful empire of Native Americans on the East Coast in North America. The initial response was the Powhatan Chief Powhatan, tried to incorporate the newcomers into his empire. Didn't go very well. Between the malaria and the Native Americans and the bad water, of the initial 100, only about 38 or so survived that first winter. In 1608, Captain John Smith came to the colony and instilled harsh military discipline, got everybody working, and was able to negotiate with the Powhatan Confederacy rather than fight them. This is probably best exampled in the case of Pocahontas. Now, please don't be fooled by the Disney myth. John Smith and Pocahontas were never lovers. They may have been friends. It would have been creepy if they were lovers. Smith was 45 or so. Pocahontas was about 13. The whole Pocahontas story is probably more of an initiation rather than an actual capture. We'll talk about this some other time. John Smith was able to keep the colony going throughout that 1608. In 1609 and 10, they had what's actually called the starving time. The population had grown so rapidly because the Virginia Company, rather than finding gold, decided to try to sell the land in order to make a profit. So a lot of people came, not enough food for everybody, and that led to that starving time. By 1612, they discovered that tobacco was a good cash crop. In 1613 and 14, Britain instituted what's known as the headright system. Anybody that moved into the Virginia colonies by themselves would get 50 acres. Every servant they brought would get another 50 acres or so. By 1620, about 50,000 tons of tobacco were sent back to England, and by 1670, it's over 15 million. Most of the farming was done by indentured servants at this point, although we do see in 1619 the first African slaves show up, which will lead to the racialized system of slavery that we know about in the early American history. In 1624, Virginia became a royal colony. The charter was taken away. The royal charter was implemented, which meant that the king could now send a governor that would lead the colony. Interestingly, in that, they also guaranteed that all of the Virginia settlers would have the rights of Englishmen, which means they got to have their own little self-government, which is going to be known as the House of Burgess, which was a way to try to get more settlers into the colony.